You know, every night, as the moon drifts quietly across the sky, a secret rendezvous takes place between the moon and the sea. That delicate light brushes the surface of the water, awakening gentle ripples that beat like the heartbeat of the earth. Yet behind that peaceful beauty lies an ancient love story, where science and emotion intertwine into the melody of the cosmos. Tonight, Smart Sleep will tell you the story of the moon's orbit and the ocean's tides. A love that never needs to touch, yet still makes the entire sea tremble. And if you've ever felt your heart rise, like a wave stirred by a single glance, a fleeting memory, then stay with us and subscribe to Smart Sleep so that each night we can drift together through stories as tender and serene as this one. When the moonlight touches the sea, the world seems to hold its breath for a fleeting moment. The air grows still, leaving only a thin shimmer of light flowing across the waves like a ribbon of silver. Beneath the quiet sky, the ocean seems to tremble softly, answering the call of the moon that hangs suspended above. That moment is as fragile as a sigh, yet strong enough to remind us that, amid the vastness of the cosmos, an invisible bond endures, an ancient conversation between sky and water, between light and motion, between stillness and rhythm. When we pause to listen, we realize the tide rises not only because of the moon's pull, but also because of a subtle emotion, a resonance between two worlds that seem far apart. The moon, Earth's steadfast companion on its journey around the sun, is not merely a cold, lifeless rock. Beneath its quiet, grey dust lies a history of collision, creation, and survival. She was born from Earth itself, formed from fragments, cast into space after a colossal impact billions of years ago. Since then, she has stayed circling Earth like a silent promise. From that moment on, between them, the blue planet and her silver companion began an endless dance. Each night, the moon rises and casts her reflection upon the sea, and the sea swells to meet her, a meeting that is never late, a love that needs no words, only presence, steady, patient, and eternal as time itself. To science, it is gravity, the stretching of the oceans by the uneven pull of celestial forces. But to the heart, it is a love song. When the moon is full, the waves rise high. When she wanes, the sea grows calm. That rise and fall is the planet's breath, the heartbeat of the universe pulsing in time with her. Each tide that swells and retreats leaves the shore bare again, like a promise unfulfilled. All of it unfolds in silence, steady, unseen, and yet breathtakingly beautiful. When moonlight touches the sea, it is not merely reflection, but communion between two souls. In that instant, the ocean becomes a vast mirror, reflecting the heavens and merging with them. Perhaps that is why, when humans gaze at the moon shimmering upon the water, their hearts soften. It is the quiet recognition that we, too, are being pulled by an unseen force, just as the sea is drawn by the moon. Perhaps within each of us lies our own tide, emotions that surge when we encounter what we love, and ebb when memory fades. And just like the moon and the sea, human affection doesn't always need to touch to be felt deeply. A glance, a voice, a memory that alone can send waves through the heart. Between us and the ones we love, there are orbits too, sometimes distant, sometimes close, yet always connected by a mysterious, nameless pull. Science calls it gravity. The heart calls it fate. Connection, a thread invisible to the eye, but felt through the trembling of the soul. In the moment moonlight brushes the ocean's surface, we glimpse harmony between physics and poetry. The tides are proof of a truth. Even the most impersonal forces of the universe can speak the language of emotion. As the moon glides across the sky, her pull raises the waters below. It is not dominance, but influence, gentle, effortless, and strong enough to move the world. Just as in love, sometimes a single presence without touch, without words, can alter the entire landscape within us. The universe is never still. Everything moves, everything affects everything else. And within those eternal orbits, the moon and the sea are the central duet in nature's grand symphony. When the moon drifts away, the tides weaken. When she draws near, the waves swell once more. Though they never truly meet, their connection defies distance. A beautiful paradox of closeness within separation. Each night, when moonlight graces the sea, a love song is reborn. Light and water, opposites by nature, one pure and one deep, blend into a tender painting. It comforts the human heart to know that amid the chaos of the world, there still exist eternal laws, timeless affections. Humanity may not endure forever, but the moon will still shine, and the sea will still rise, as they have for billions of years. It is a gentle reminder that even in impermanence, something everlasting remains. Science observes the moon and sea through numbers and equations. Poetry listens and hears the earth breathing, the sky and water speaking. These ways of seeing do not contradict, they complete each other. Science tells us why, emotion tells us what it means, and perhaps it is in their union that the world reveals its true nature, where every law has a soul, and every feeling has reason. The moon does not shine for herself. She borrows her light from the sun, sharing it freely across the earth. And when the sea receives that light, it does not keep it. It reflects it back, scattering it into the air. Moonlight falls upon the waves, breaking into 1,000 shimmering pieces. Each wave becomes a note, each ray of light a breath, until the night sky turns into a silent symphony, one that blends mathematics and poetry, science and sentiment, logic and dream all as one. In our noisy modern lives, we often forget that such small moments hold the wisdom of the cosmos. The moonlight upon the sea is not merely a sight, it is a lesson in connection. The moon and sea can never touch, yet they are bound forever. They do not possess one another, they simply exist in rhythm, in orbit, in balance, and that alone sustains the harmony of Earth. Perhaps that is the quiet lesson for us too. True love is not possession, but influence, not control, but coexistence in harmony. When we gaze at the moon stretched across the sea, we also gaze inward, deep within. Each of us holds an ocean of emotions, of tides of the soul. At times we are still, calm as a mirror, but just one flicker of memory, one ray of longing, and waves rise within. The tides of the heart follow their own cycles, high and low, calm and storm, and perhaps beauty lies not in stillness, but in knowing how to listen to the waves inside us, realizing that we are still capable of feeling. The moon and the sea do not need to understand each other. They simply feel. The moon never asks why the sea rises. The sea never demands the moon shine brighter. They coexist, maintaining the rhythm of the world. Within that relationship are respect, distance, waiting, and a strange, profound harmony. It mirrors the finest human connections. No bindings, just presence. No control. Just two beings moving together in balance. When moonlight touches the sea, the universe whispers a simple truth. All connection begins with listening. The moon listens to the ocean through waves. The ocean listens to the moon through light. And when we pause to watch, we too join the conversation. In that moment, three beings, the moon, the sea, and humankind breathe as one. Each wave is a word, each ray a glance, and in the silence between them lies understanding without speech. If you listen long enough, you'll hear that everything in nature has its own language. Trees speak through leaves, wind through breath, the moon through light, the sea through rhythm. When these voices intertwine, the world becomes whole, and within that wholeness, the human heart feels sheltered, understood, forgiven. Perhaps that is why moonlight and the sea bring peace they do not demand, nor judge. They simply remind us that we live in a world that still breathes, still loves, still feels. The conversation between the moon and the sea has likely lasted billions of years and will continue forever. No one can hear it with their ears, yet every living being senses it in their rhythm. Fish move with the tides, birds migrate under moonlight, trees grow with the moisture brought by the waves. Everything is connected, from the flutter of a butterfly in the forest to the vast expanse of the ocean. All are moved by this silent dialogue, and when we understand that, we realize we are not apart from the universe, we are part of it. The moonlight touching the sea is not just an image, but a metaphor for the union of opposites in life. Light and dark, near and far, reason and emotion. It reminds us that even what seems irreconcilable, light and water, logic and heart, can blend if they find the same rhythm. That rhythm lies not in possession, but in empathy. So each night, as moonlight quietly spills across the waves, the ocean trembles in reply. In that instant, the world feels complete, as nature, science, and poetry dissolve into one another. The earth exhales softly, and we, the listeners, feel ourselves breathing with it. For within each rising wave, there is more than the moon's pull. There is the warmth of connection between sky and sea, between physics and feeling, between the vast universe and the small, beating heart of humankind. From the moment moonlight touches the sea, the story never truly ends. Even when the waves subside and the night fades into the faint shimmer of dawn, one thing remains: the moon herself, still watching, still waiting in silence. And so the story continues, from the ocean's breath to the still pulse of space, where the lonely moon keeps her unspoken love for the world below. The moon, the lover of the void. The name sounds both tender and sorrowful, as if she were born each night to shine, yet only ever for others. She has no light of her own. She borrows radiance from the sun, a light that travels hundreds of thousands of miles through the cold of space, before dissolving upon her silver skin. And yet, somehow, that borrowed light returns transformed, softer, gentler, dreamier, as though, through the solitude of her journey, she has learned how to turn fire into peace, brilliance into tenderness. The moon belongs to no one, and needs no one to belong to her. She drifts alone through the vastness, not in despair, but in the fullness of solitude. Each night she gazes down upon the earth, watching the lights, the forests, the oceans, and the small humans who still look up at her. They gaze at the moon, not knowing she gazes back. Every ripple, every reflection, every breath of the sea she quietly remembers, for though distant, she still holds an invisible thread, gravity's own delicate beyond sight, yet strong enough to cradle an entire planet in her arms. Science calls it the law of gravitation, the mutual pull between two bodies of mass. but the soul calls it love. Love that needs no touch, no closeness, yet changes both forever. The earth no longer spins alone, the moon no longer drifts aimlessly. They exist together, moving in a timeless waltz. Each lunar phase, a breath. Each orbit, a silent promise. They say the moon is a symbol of longing, but that longing is not sorrow. It is the presence of a love that cannot touch, only be felt. When we look at the sky, we see her, knowing there lies an endless distance between us, and still, her light reaches us. On rooftops, on waves, on the shoulders of those walking through the night. Isn't that a kind of miracle? A miracle called existence, where distance becomes the very space through which feeling travels. The moon never chooses to stay near anyone because she belongs to all. Her light falls on sea and desert alike, on city roofs and lonely mountains. She does not favor, she simply is. She shines for those who remember to look up. Perhaps that is why she has become a symbol of love without possession. A love that never says you are mine, only I am here. In such love, there is no jealousy, no control, only presence and influence, just as the moon affects the tides every day. Though she has never once touched the sea, if we listen with our hearts, we can hear in her orbit a quiet lesson in constancy. Though the earth spins ceaselessly and the sun blazes without rest, the moon follows her own path, slow, gentle, unhurried. She does not compete with the sun, nor fear being forgotten in darkness. She knows that when night comes, the world will seek her calm light. Day belongs to the sun's brilliance, but night belongs to the moon, to weary souls seeking peace. The moon's light does not blind, but soothes, perhaps because it never forces itself. It arrives softly, spreading slowly, like the breath of someone asleep. Each time we look up at her, it feels as though someone is listening, understanding, feeling what we cannot say. Many have cried beneath her, laughed beneath her, missed someone when she was full, or felt lonely when she was waning. She has always been there, an old friend, saying nothing, judging no one, only shining. What truly makes the moon special is not her light, but the space that surrounds her. It is that emptiness that renders her beauty so pure. Without it, her light would lose its depth and would no longer shimmer the same way. Just like us, sometimes it is the pauses, the quiet hollows of the soul, that make us more profound. The moon teaches that solitude is not a lack, but another shape of wholeness, a place where we grow quiet enough to hear our own voice and distant enough to see the entire picture. In this vast universe, there are countless planets and stars, yet the moon holds a singular place in the human heart. No star is spoken of as often in poetry, in music, and in longing as the moon, perhaps because she reflects our own image, small souls who love, who know loneliness, who can light the way for others, even while standing in the dark. She is a symbol of gentle strength, fragile in her glow, enduring in her influence. When the sun shines, the moon is silent. When night falls, she shines again. It is a natural harmony between two opposites, brilliance and softness, day and night, yang and yin. In the cosmos, things exist in pairs, not to exclude, but to complete one another. The moon needs the sun to shine. The sun needs the moon for a place to be reflected. There is no rivalry between them, only rhythm in turn. Perhaps if we learn to live like that, to step back when others need to step forward, to glow when the world needs gentleness, we too will find balance like the moon and the Sunday. There is one curious fact. The moon drifts away from the Earth each year by a few centimeters. Science says Earth's rotational energy transfers into the moon's orbit, but heard with the heart, it feels like a soft sadness. Though they love, are bound, and look at each other every night, they must slowly part to keep each other whole. A bond that is truly deep sometimes asks for distance, not because love has faded, but to protect the other's stability. The moon recedes, so the Earth is not distorted by a pull too strong. The Earth keeps turning to hold the moon in her path. It is distance in service of preservation. The kind of love that knows limits are what allow things to endure. When we look at the moon from Earth, she seems bright and round, yet half of her is always in darkness, the hidden face that never turns to us. The moon shows us only a part, keeping the rest forever to herself. So it is with people. We show the world our lit side, the polished pieces, while the shadowed part, the truest part we keep within. The moon reminds us that light has meaning only alongside shadow, and that real beauty lies not in flawlessness, but in accepting what is unfinished in ourselves. Within that solitary space, the moon goes on with her journey quiet and unwavering. No one hears her speak, yet the whole world feels her presence. So it is with those who love in silence. They say little, but every act, every breath is filled with devotion. The moon's pull is invisible, yet strong enough to stir the oceans. Love works the same way. It needs no declaration. Its very existence is enough to set the heart in motion. The moon brings us calm, but that calm is anything but simple. It is the result of billions of years of motion, of countless forces in balance, pull and push, light and dark. It is the peace of a soul that has lived and learned the cost of things. The moon was once part of the Earth, flung outward, wandering, and then finding her own orbit. Her solitude is not sorrow, but freedom. The freedom to be herself in the boundless sky. Perhaps that is why, when night comes, we turn to the moon as to a confidant. We ask for nothing in return. It is enough that she is there quietly, and our hearts ease. Amid the chaos, she reminds us that stillness, too, is a form of strength. We do not always need to speak or touch to prove we exist, to keep to one's path, to guard one's own light that alone can warm the world. As moonlight drifts across the sea and fades at the horizon, she remains, continuing her timeless journey. No one knows what she thinks or feels, but each night, when we look up, our hearts grow still, because we know that whatever tomorrow brings, however the world may change, the moon will still shine, still watch, still be, and in that being, something is never lost. A gentle reminder that love, like gravity, may be unseen, yet it is always real, always present, always guiding our steps. From the lonely space where the moon glides across the sky, that tender light finds, once more, her quiet lover on Earth, the ocean. The journey of that far-traveling light always has a familiar destination, the open water waiting below. For ages, between them, the moon and the sea, a boundless music has played on. When moonlight touches the waves, she whispers. The sea in its own language listens, quivers, and answers with the rise and fall of the tides. In that moment, the world softens, as though steeped in the slow heartbeat of the Earth, the ocean, the planet's beating heart. At first it sounds like a metaphor, but look more closely and it is also true. The sea is Earth's vast circulatory system. Its waters move and flow, carrying warmth and nutrients around the globe. Ocean currents run like arteries, bearing heat from the equator to the poles and back again, sustaining life for millions of creatures. Without the sea, this planet would lose its pulse, and when the tides rise and fall, the great heart is contracting, breathing, feeling. The sea does not speak, yet it is always listening. Within every crash of surf lies a rhythm heard only by those who quiet themselves to hear it. No two waves are ever the same. Each carries its own tempo, its own breath, its own feeling. When the moon is full, the waves surge high and strong, like longing at its peak. When she wanes, the sea grows still, like a heart gone quiet with distance. The ocean answers the moon's every change in its own language, the language of motion. And within that motion live both science and feeling, reason and love, logic and poetry woven into a single natural symphony. We often say the sea stands for vastness, but inside that vastness are countless subtle tremors, so delicate only nature can fully sense them. Every water molecule, every grain of salt, every rising wave has a place, a role, a purpose. When the moon's pull draws the waters upward, billions of drops move together, not one is alone. The sea is not a lifeless mass, but a living community, where each part listens and yields to the others, forming a single rhythm. That unity is the planet's heartbeat, one we hear only when we grow quiet enough to stop hearing the noise within ourselves. If anyone asked what the earth sounds like, perhaps it is the sound of waves, not the clamor of wind, nor the thunder or the rain, but the steady, ceaseless hush of surf by day and night through all the years. That sound is not random. It is a pulse, a breath, the planet's whisper to itself. Standing on the shore, listening to the sea, we are hearing Earth's own heart speak. Each crest is a contraction, each retreat a release, and between those rises and falls is a hush. The pause, like a heart's stillness before the next beat. The tides, the rising and falling of the sea are not only physics, they are a symbol of life's rhythm. Long before formulas or Newton's laws, people felt the moon and sea were bound in a strange connection. Ancient sailors watched the moon to read the waters, farmers on the shore planted by the tides. Without knowing the mechanism, they still sensed one truth. There is a shared rhythm between cosmos and earth, light and water, moon and human heart, and that rhythm still resounds today. When the moon appears, the sea rises, as if straining to hear a lover's call. Science can explain it with gravity and the gradient of pull across the globe. Yet only poetry can tell the deeper truth. The sea rises because it remembers, because it trembles, because it longs to be just a little closer. Each wave is a heartbeat, each tide a breath. The ocean is not merely water, but the feeling of a planet in love. If the moon is the lover of the void, the sea is the heart that loves, listens, and beats in time with a distant call. Not all love needs words, and not all bonds need touch. Some loves need only a shared rhythm that can be felt across any distance. So it is with the sea and the moon, separated by hundreds of thousands of miles, yet understanding one another in every motion. The sea grows quiet when the moon is hidden, spirited when she is full, eager when she climbs high. It is as if the ocean not only listens, but feels, anticipates, and waits. In a rising wave, we see a force that cannot be denied, and within that force, gentleness and consent. The waves do not resist the moon, nor deny the invisible pull. The sea allows itself to be drawn, changed, stirred, understanding that in movement, life continues. Perhaps we, too, must learn from the sea to listen, to receive the invisible influences of life and of others, to know that trembling is not weakness, but proof that we are still alive. The tides never stop. Day and night, full or new, the ocean keeps up the conversation. That steadiness brings a feeling of safety, as though someone is guarding the world's rhythm. Each morning, the tide retreats, leaving the night's traces. Shells, strands of seaweed, the footprints of someone passing by. Each evening, the water rises and washes it all clean, a way of renewing itself. Through this, the sea teaches us how to let go, that all things can be released, and that release is not loss, but life's own law. When people are weary, they go to the sea. It is no accident. Sitting by the water, watching wave follow wave, hearing the measured hush, our hearts begin to fall into the sea's cadence. It feels like being soothed, like being lulled to rest. The sea says nothing, yet its repetition quiets the mind and slows the pulse. Amid a life of turmoil, one evening by the ocean shows us what peace is. Peace is not the absence of waves, but the trust that waves will come and go, tides will rise and fall, and every feeling, no matter how fierce, will find its balance again. Under moonlight, watching the sea rise, we witness a love without words, yet powerful. No one listens like the sea. No one waits as faithfully as the sea. Each night, the ocean lifts its face toward the soft falling light. Each night, the moon answers with a silent gaze. Between them there is no possession, no demand, only understanding. A knowing so deep it needs no speech, only feeling. So it is with true love. Sometimes it is enough simply to exist within the same air. Within the ocean, the tides have another task: to regulate the planet's life. They steady the climate, help sea life to flourish, and keep the shores from going barren. If the moon is reason governing, calculating, maintaining order, then the sea is emotion alive, changing, full of energy. These two elements together form a harmonious world where science and feeling coexist. When we see this, we realize nothing in nature is random. Every motion is a message. Every tremor carries meaning. If one day the moon were gone, what would become of the sea? Science says the tides would weaken. The waves would no longer be as strong, but deeper still, the world would lose part of its rhythm, the ancient love song that has echoed for billions of years. Without the moon, the ocean might grow too still, like a heart that has stopped beating. So it is in life. When we close ourselves to feeling, when we shut down the tides within, we lose the most vital part of who we are. The ocean is the planet's heart, not only because it sustains life, but because it knows how to love, to tremble, to listen. It never stops moving, never stops answering, never stops telling its story through the sound of waves. And with every breaking crest, the earth whispers, I am living, I am loving, I am feeling. Perhaps that is why, standing before the sea, even in silence, we feel comforted, for within that sound is the echo of our own hearts, sometimes light, sometimes heavy, sometimes quick, sometimes still, but always honest, always true. And so, each night when moonlight falls again upon the water, the conversation continues. The moon whispers with light, the sea replies with waves. No one interrupts, no one seeks to win. Together, they create a cadence, the rhythm of life, of love, of the everlasting. Listen closely, and in every tide you will hear the gentlest lullaby. Nature gives the world a song without lyrics or instruments, only the ocean's pulse and the sky's breath forever, tenderly enduring like the love of those who never touch, yet move one another to the depths, from the heart of the sea where the tides rise and fall. The story of the moon and the ocean flows on like music that never ends. After every wave, we sense something deeper, a quiet, eternal force, guiding all those tremors. If the sea is the heart and the moon the lover, then between them lies an unseen thread, intangible, untouchable, always present. That thread is gravity, the destiny that binds two distant ones. Without moonlight, the ocean remains vast, blue, home to worlds of life and storm. But without gravity, not just the moons, but the pull of every body, this world would unravel. Nothing would move, nothing would circle, nothing would hold its shape. Gravity is not loud or showy, yet it keeps everything intact. It is the fated thread that joins distant souls, not through touch, but through influence. And in that quiet, it resembles love. Without contact, it still changes everything. When we see the moon hanging high, casting light on the shimmering sea, we are witnessing one of the subtlest expressions of that pull. The moon draws the water up. The sea answers with swelling waves. In that very moment, the earth does not stand perfectly still. Either it tilts ever so slightly toward the moon, a shift so small we can barely feel it. Each time the moon pulls, the earth replies. Both sway in an invisible waltz. This is not just physics. It is proof that bonds exist beyond sight. Connections no ruler can measure, but the heart can sense. Isaac Newton once said he saw farther by standing on the shoulders of giants. In the night's dark, looking up, we might say, we understand a little of the universe because we can feel that thread. Gravity teaching us that nothing is truly isolated. Every grain of sand, every star, every person affects every other, even if only as a faint tremor in space. The universe is not still. It is a symphony of attractions, where all things call to one another, hold one another, and revolve around something shared. If the moon and the sea can love by drawing each other near, then gravity is the language of their love. It is the universe saying, I have not forgotten you. No one wholly escapes a planet's pull, just as no one ever fully leaves the memory of a love once known. However far we travel, we carry that imprint, a quiet force tugging us back, bending our course, leaving us changed. In physics, it is gravity. In life, it is feeling. It is wondrous that the same law rules the stars and mirrors our days. Like the moon and the sea, each of us has our own orbit and journey. Yet we are moved by invisible forces: affection, memory, belief, hope. None of us is completely free, and it is precisely this unfreedom that gives the world meaning. If everything drifted unbound, the universe would be a cold, empty void. But because there is pull, things are held, circling, influencing, and from that influence, life arises. When we love someone, we enter a new orbit. From that moment, each thought, each heartbeat, each act shifts gently, deeply. We are no longer a solitary traveler in the dark, but part of a double motion, like the earth and the moon, turning together in silence, full of energy. Sometimes we are the earth, weighty, steady, with an ocean wide enough to love. Sometimes we are the moon, lighter, father, able only to watch with tender light. But in either role, we are bound by that destined thread, the gravity of feeling. No one truly understands gravity in full. Even Einstein, when he sketched a universe of curvature, could only describe it, not explain it completely. Because, like love, that pull cannot be seen with the eyes. It can only be felt through its consequences. We know it exists because we see planets circling, stars gathering, galaxies spiraling. And we know we love not because a formula can measure it, but because we feel our hearts shift, because our lives begin to revolve around something. The world endures through a balance of attraction and repulsion. If there were only pull, everything would collapse into a single point. If there were only push, the universe would fly apart. Life is born in the middle, in the poise of motion. So it is with affection. Cling too tightly and you suffocate. Let go completely and you lose what matters. True love, like gravity, is a quiet presence that never disappears. It needs no proof, no possession, only the knowing that between two souls there is a thread that keeps them from drifting too far. Imagine that one day the moon vanished from the sky. The sea would remain, but its rhythm would change. The tides would weaken. Earth's breath would slow. Perhaps the world would go on, yet colder, stiller, like a heart missing its beat. When we lose an essential bond, life does not stop, but it is no longer the same. Everything still runs, yet without resonance. The gravity of feeling, once gone, leaves an emptiness nothing else can fill, because that part is invisible, irreplaceable, beyond imitation. The loveliest truth about gravity is this: it does not coerce, it simply exists, steadfast, waiting. The moon never commands the sea to rise, and yet it rises. The earth never summons the moon to orbit, and yet she circles on. In nature's order, some things need no decree, only presence. The pull of love is the same. It needs no reason, no explanation. It only needs to be. And we know the world would be chaos if every bond could be computed. It is thanks to these unseen strands that the universe gains rhythm, order, and soul. Look deeper into gravity's workings, and you'll find something deeply human. It does not discriminate by size. A speck of dust has its own pull faint. Yes, yet enough to declare that everything matters. So it is in love. No one is invisible. No one so small as to be without effect. A single glance, a single word, a simple presence can change someone's entire world. In this way, gravity becomes a symbol of emotional equality. Each of us can make the world tremble, even if only a little. Sometimes the pull becomes too strong and then things collapse into one another, like aging stars that contract into black holes. And even in that collapse, there is its own austere beauty. A black hole is not mere destruction. It is gravity at its extreme, where time and space stall, where every beam of light is held forever. Perhaps the most passionate love is like that, too, when we cannot escape, cannot forget, cannot go far. Rather than calling it tragedy, let it be proof of connection's power. For if a feeling can bend time within us, it cannot be ordinary. The universe has no center, and yet everything orbits something. Perhaps within each of us there is a small earth, and around it move the things we love: family, memories, dreams, pain. They circle and keep our days in balance and meaning. The pull of these things prevents us from dissolving. It tells us where we belong. When we lose our way, we need only turn back toward that light as the sea looks to the moon, and we find the path home. Without gravity, the world would lose its motion. Without love, we would lose our vitality. All formulas, all theories, every grand construct is, in the end, how we try to describe the invisible threads binding us to the rest of existence. And perhaps because we cannot see them, we must all the more believe that each tremor, each glance, each moment of empathy has worth. Believe that no matter the distance, if one fine strand still connects us through feeling, then there is still hope. Between moon and sea lies gravity. Between human beings lies kindness. Across the universe lies resonance. They all share one nature, the need to be connected, to feel, to influence, to love. And when we understand this, distance loses its power to frighten us. Distance only stretches the thread, makes it taut, resilient, precious. Without far, there is no longing. Without emptiness, no desire. So when night comes, when the moon hangs high and the waves swell, remember, in that moment, the whole universe is breathing together. Gravity does more than keep planets in their paths. It keeps every heart beating, every soul seeking, across layers of space. It is destiny, the universe's red thread running from the smallest mote to the farthest star. And just as between the moon and the sea, so between us and what we love, there is always a bond that defies explanation. One that lets us move together, exist together, forever. From the invisible thread between moon and sea, the universe's story seems to descend to a deeper layer, where every law of motion softens, soaked with feeling like nature's own spirit. When we look long enough, slow enough, quiet enough, numbers, formulas, orbits, and forces cease to be laboratory stiffness and become breath, become melody, become a whisper. There, we meet the wondrous crossing of reason and emotion, of science and poetry. Perhaps when science becomes poetry, the world is not only understood, but felt. Tide, orbit, gravity, words that sound as if they belong only on cool pages lit by white lamps over soulless figures. But if we listen with the heart, each phenomenon holds a delicate pulse of feeling. The tides rise and fall like the planet's breath. An orbit is time's choreography. Gravity is attachment, the most enduring sentiment the cosmos has ever known. Even the most exact physical law holds a kind of verse. The poetry of order, of harmony, of relations hidden among things that seem unfeeling. When moonlight spreads over the sea and reflects the cosmos in our eyes, we see that science and poetry were never foes. Science strives to grasp the world with reason. Poetry strives to feel it with the soul. Their destination is the same: understanding. The scientist looks up to find rules of motion. The poet looks up to find the rules of the heart. One writes equations, the other writes lines. Both touch the same thing: truth. Under moonlight, truth gains rhythm precise as mathematics, gentle as music. When Newton saw the apple fall and recognized gravity, he opened a new chapter for humankind. But if we watch that same fall with the soul's gaze, the apple drops, not only because of weight, but because of a rendezvous between object and planet, a longing to return, and the anchor of existence. The moon's orbit, too, is more than uniform circular motion. It is the ancient dance of two souls that cannot touch. The universe plays a score where each note is a law, and each law, heard with feeling, becomes a poem. Science is the language of precision, but precision is not devoid of heart. Every number, every equation, every graph is a way the world confides in us. In a tidal oscillation chart, crests and troughs rise and sink like the planet's pulse. In the moon's plotted path, she never strays, repeating her journey for millions of years, a beautiful constancy. And in the formula for the pull between two bodies, we find the most perfect definition of love itself. The closer they are, the stronger the pull. The farther they drift, the weaker the influence, yet it never vanishes. When science turns to poetry, we no longer see the world as a soulless machine, but as a living body that feels. The sun is not merely a light source, but a heart ablaze, sending energy to every corner. Electrons circling a nucleus do not only obey Coulomb's law, but move with a fierce fidelity, an endless round of being. The space between stars is not empty, but the room where vibrations travel. In each physical formula, we can hear the universe's music, wordless, yet so deep that language itself feels small. In truth, every great scientist is a poet at heart. Einstein said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." He knew that discovery springs not only from calculation, but from feeling, from wonder, from the childlike gaze that loves the world. Like poets, scientists ask not only to prove, but to understand. Both love the world in their own tongue, one with words, the other with numbers. When they meet, they create not only knowledge, but beauty, the beauty of insight. Thus, the moon and the sea, the protagonists of this tale, are more than proofs of physics. They are a poem the cosmos keeps writing. When the moon pulls the sea, it is not only force, but affection. When the sea rises, it is not only movement, but response. The tide is the oldest poem on earth, written in water, in light, in time, and miraculously, it never ends. Each night the moon ascends, and the lines continue steady, tireless, like the heartbeat of love. Science can measure the distance between moon and sea, compute their pull, predict the water's height, but it cannot measure what we feel when we witness it. Feeling obeys no law, it lies beyond formula. There, poetry begins where science pauses. And if science goes far enough, it circles back to poetry. They meet where understanding and feeling cross between reason and soul, earth and sky. When science becomes poetry, we become part of the universe. We are no longer mere observers, but a note within the score. Each breath, each heartbeat, each glance is a small oscillation joining the world's vibration. Hearing the surf, we hear our own hearts. Looking at the moon, we see sunlight that crossed space and fell into our eyes after more than a second. A long journey delivered softly. In that instant, we are both scientist and poet. We understand what is happening, and still cannot keep from being moved. Poetry is not only lines on a page, but our way of feeling the world. Science is not only equations, but our way of understanding it. When the two meet, knowledge grows kind, and feeling grows deep. People often split us into two halves, rational and emotional, yet the universe never divided things so. Every motion has both logic and spirit. A planet orbits its star, not only by law, but by harmony. A wave is not only a mechanical oscillation, but water's whisper to the sky. See with science alone, and you'll witness operation. See with poetry alone, and you'll witness meaning. See with both, and you'll witness beauty, the beauty of truth. That everything, from dust to star, is bound by wondrous laws. Then we feel small, but not alone, because we belong to the symphony. When moonlight spills across the sea, numbers find a heartbeat. An orbit ceases to be a dry circle and becomes a dance. Gravity ceases to be a formula and becomes love. The tide does not rise only by calculation, but by feeling. Everything science describes with symbols, nature has expressed with emotion for billions of years. Seeing this, we understand. To know the world is not to possess it, but to love it rightly. Science does not stand against poetry. It is another way to speak of the same thing. Love for the world, for the universe, for life. When we learn to read numbers with the heart, we find stories behind equations, longing behind laws, a call behind every movement. When we can hear that call, the universe stops being distant and becomes a confidant, telling us the oldest, gentlest, truest things. And so, each time night descends, when moonlight veils the water and the waves whisper to the wind, remember, this is not only a scene, it is science singing in the voice of poetry. A piece of music in which we, the listeners, are also a note. A poem in which we, the living, are the last line still unwritten. Science may explain, but only poetry lets us belong. When both become one, the universe is not only understood, it is loved. With mind, with feeling, with the whole of our being. Since science turned to poetry, the world seems softer, nearer, more intimate with the human soul. Numbers cease to be emblems of coldness. They become pulse and breath, the way the universe whispers of life. And in those whispers, one story repeats across billions of years. The story of two forever distant beings who cannot let go. The moon keeps to her orbit. The sea keeps to her rise. Two solitary spirits circling, never meeting, never parting. The love of constancy and waiting. The eternal ballad the cosmos grants to those patient enough to listen. The moon keeps to her path. The sea keeps to her cycle, seen only with reason. This is repetition, an endless, changeless motion. Seen with the heart, it is fidelity, loyalty, a vow from the dawn of time. In each lunar loop, in each swelling tide, there is something profoundly human. The steadiness, the waiting, the endurance of a love that needs no meeting to survive through ages. Quietly, the moon travels across each region of the sky, never weary. Even when veiled by cloud or erased by dawn, she returns the next night on time, in rhythm, as if time itself could never make her late. Below, the sea patiently lifts to greet her, then settles when she departs. They cannot touch, yet they share a deep understanding, a certainty that however far, they will keep turning in their destined dance. This is the universe's love. No words, no touch, only mutual existence and orientation toward one another. Their repetition is not dullness. It is the steady beat of a living being rise and fall, with rests between, never stopping. That repetition creates stability, trust, the sense that amid immensity and impermanence, some things do not change. In human love, too, passion is not proved only by novelty. Sometimes the deepest love is precisely the staying, the repeating, the remaining. Moon and sea have found each other's rhythm. They need no explosions to prove their bond, no drama to leave a mark. They simply exist steady, consenting in a shared orbit. The moon knows the sea will rise when she comes. The sea knows the moon will return. Though clouds may hide her, between them lies absolute trust, a loyalty we seldom keep in a world of change. When people speak of love, they often think of heat, hunger, the blaze of moments. Yet in the moon and the sea, love takes another shape, gentler, sturdier, more mature. It belongs to souls who know they need not always be side by side to love, only to keep the connection alive within. They do not force a meeting. They do not despair at distance. They accept distance as essential because distance keeps the thread taut, alive, and real. Perhaps the moon and the sea know better than anyone that love need not end in union. Some stories are beautiful because they remain open, because they never reach an ending. The impossibility of touch makes each sighting dear. The sea rises whenever moonlight falls, as if offering all of itself to receive that light, knowing it shatters the instant it meets the water. The moon shines down, knowing her glow only reaches the surface and cannot sink deeper. Yet she never stops sending her softest beams. Their constancy makes the universe pause to listen. Every waxing and waning, every tide sings of loyalty. The moon never changes her orbit. The sea never refuses her call. Time moves, planets turn, yet their bond remains, a vow unbroken. Perhaps this is the love every soul longs for. Not a blaze, but a steady warmth. Not speeches, but the quiet repetition of staying. Seen through science, this is gravity, cycles, law. Seen through feeling, it is the cosmos's love song. The tide is the heartbeat, the orbit, the embrace, the pull, the longing. Together they maintain an eternal bond nothing can sever. So it is in life. A relationship may seem finished, yet one breath, one memory, one pulse of longing can make two hearts tremble again. Maybe we love the sight of moon over sea not only for its beauty, but because we recognize ourselves the part that can wait, can remain, can trust that sincere bonds do not vanish despite distance. Each of us has a private orbit and a sea we always turn toward. It might be a person, a memory, a dream. Like the moon and the sea, we circle it, never touching, never ceasing to exist because of it. Their repetition teaches us this. Constancy is not rigidity. Waiting is not weakness. Constancy is keeping faith, though the world changes. Waiting is trusting that what we face is still worth the time, though years pass. In an age of dizzying change, the love of moon and sea is a gentle reminder. Some things are beautiful only when kept, not when replaced. Like the ocean, the human heart has inner tides. There are surges and calms. In every state, if love remains, we remain oriented. The moon and the sea teach us constancy, that love need not always be fierce, only unabandoning. They teach us patience, that love needs no ending, only the quiet certainty that in each moment we still keep the thread. Night after night, moonlight lays itself upon the water, and the sea rises in reply. This scene repeats for millennia, never tiresome, never old, because each time it happens, it feels new, embodied, enough to slow our breath and let us sense nature's accord with feeling. That repetition proves that in a world of change, some things can endure not by force, but by trust and fidelity. If it needs a name, the love of the moon and the sea is the love of grown souls. No demands, no possession, no pursuit of a finale, only steadiness in being, and patience in the faith of endless cycles. It is the love of constancy and waiting, two qualities that seem ordinary, yet quietly uphold every lasting bond. As the moon slips behind the horizon, the sea grows still, like a lover who knows it is time to release, yet leaves a promise in the letting go. For the moon will return, and the sea will rise again, in its own way, The universe has taught us how to wait. Some things arrive only when we are patient enough, trusting enough, enduring enough to remain. Across billions of years, the story continues without ending or change. The moon keeps to her orbit, the sea keeps to her tide. They are, as if pledged, never meeting, always turn toward each other. Their repetition is no dullness, but a vow of loyalty, a love before which even time must bow. Unable to fade what was born from constancy and waiting. And perhaps, in the deep of night, as we listen to the waves and lift our eyes to the moon, we hear not only nature's tale, but the echo of our own hearts, where a love is waiting, constant, keeping time with the universe, with time itself, with eternity. From the love of moon and sea, where constancy becomes vow and waiting becomes instinct, we realize that what happens out there between sky and water mirrors something within. Each of us has a private ocean, where waves rise and fall to the pull of an invisible force, the pull of feeling, of what we love, remember, and long for. Perhaps that is why we understand the tides, because we too have tides within. In everyone lives a small ocean, silent yet deep, not beneath the skin, but in the soul, where feelings rise, recede, and begin again. Some days we are still as glass, reflecting every cloud and point of light, and sometimes a passing memory, a soft glance, a familiar sound is enough to send the waters surging. Like the sea under the moon, we are drawn by unseen pulls, a person, a remembrance, or even a shapeless thought. Science says the moon rules the tides with gravity. Our hearts have their moons, two sources that stir us. It might be love, family, someone gone yet never absent from our minds. These become emotional gravities, moving us though we think we stand still. And like the ocean, we cannot resist. We can only receive. Let each wave pass. Let the feelings rise and settle gently, profoundly. It is no accident the heart is likened to the sea. The sea is salty with brine. The heart is salty with memory. The waves rise for the moon. The heart's waves rise for love. Every feeling, however small, is a natural response, the soul's way of keeping rhythm with the universe. As the moon moves the waters, what we love moves us, proof that the heart is warm, still capable of remembering, caring, and quickening. We often try to master feeling, as if we could stop the tide. But tides cannot be stopped. They are law. So it is with emotion. It comes and goes, rises and falls. Not always on our schedule, but always on life's. We can learn to know it, listen to it, accept it, rather than suppress or deny. Only by understanding the undercurrents within can we truly understand ourselves. We may not control when feelings rise, but we can choose how they ebb, gently, without wreckage, leaving calm behind. Some days our inner sea is windless. We feel balanced, unpulled. Yet even then, deep currents flow, feeling never sleeps. A careless word, a glancing look can stir long-settled memories. Then, like the moon rising, our inner waters lift. We cannot see the pull, but we sense it drawing us toward what we love, even when we know we cannot touch it again. Each of us holds a private moon, something we orient toward. For one, a beloved. For another, a dream, a calling, a memory of youth. Every moon has a pull of its own, raising our inner sea in its own way. Sometimes stormy with desire, sometimes rippled with nostalgia. fierce or gentle, it is proof that we are alive, that we feel, that we can love. If one day our tides fell silent, we would become a desert, parched, exposed, unresponsive to any light. Emotions have phases like the moon. There are times we blaze joyful, open, alight, and times we wane, weary, dim, in need of shelter. Yet like the moon, however thin the crescent, we are whole in silence. We need not force ourselves to shine without pause. We need only accept our phases, trusting that each return brings a fuller glow. And as the sea never blames the moon, we need not scold our hearts for their rise and fall. Feeling does not weaken us, it makes us human. It reminds us that beneath the shell of reason, we are creatures of nature, breathing in the universe's rhythm. Each surge, joy or sorrow, is a way to remember we are alive. Sometimes the heart swells for no one, and nothing in particular, just a strange, sweet wave. In such moments, the soul is sinking with the world. A sinking sunset, an old song, the scent of the first rain, subtle pulls drawing us back to ourselves. Inner tides need no cause. They only need a moment, and one moment is enough to reveal that we live in a universe of tremors where every soul is an ocean, every feeling a wave, and all waves echo the moon's beat. We also rise for what has not yet happened, not the past, but the dream not yet born. Hopes, imaginings, desires can tug as strongly as reality. They stir us to reach, to move, to refuse stillness. So the sea lifts for the moon, though it will never touch her, not because it believes it will, but because it must live in the joy of leaning toward what is beautiful. The tide within teaches us to release. Waves rise so they can fall. Feelings too are not always to be held. Let certain sorrows go and they soften into peace. Let certain longings pass and they grow light. Like waves dissolving on sand, the ocean has never tried to keep the water, and thus it is always full. So it is with us. Only by letting feeling flow through can we make room for what is new. Truth be told, we have all feared our own feelings, feared loving, hurting, seeming weak. But feeling is not to be fled. It is indispensable to life. Like moon and sea, we need our oscillations to sense and to connect. Without the heart's tides, we cannot love, cannot empathize, cannot fathom the joy or grief of another. Feeling does not make us conflicted, it makes us real. And reality, for all its complexity, is what makes life worth living. The tide within, like the balance of the cosmos, needs grace too high, and it floods, too low, and it cracks. We must learn to regulate it, not to block, but to understand. Listening to feeling, we learn when to be silent and when to speak, when to stay and when to go. The sea knows when to rise and when to retreat. The human heart can learn the same, and once we do, life grows lighter. We are no longer swept away by our own waters. And perhaps the most beautiful truth is this: no matter how many cycles our feelings pass through, no matter how many times they rise and then ebb, we are still ourselves, just as the sea, though it changes with every wave, remains the sea. Motion itself is what creates beauty. If the sea stood still, it would die. If the human heart lost all feeling, we would turn to stone. So let your heart rise when it needs to. Let those inner tides touch the shore and slip away. Each time they do, you are cleansed a little more, learning to love and to understand. A little deeper each time. The world within us is, after all, a small version of the universe. There is a moon and there is a sea. There is gravity and there are orbits. There is constancy and there is waiting. And within it all, emotion is the tide, the force that makes every movement vivid and alive. Each time your heart swells, the universe inside you speaks. It is a voice without words, yet it reminds you that you are living, loving, and sensing this world with all the delicacy and greatness of being human. When night comes, if you listen closely enough, you will hear the waves inside you, soft as breath, or rushing like a storm. Either way, that is the rhythm of life, your own song blending with the song of the cosmos. And then you will know you are not separate from the moon, the sea, or this world. You are part of that rhythm, a small ocean that still rises beneath moonlight, still keeps its inner tides, still loves quietly and quietly waits. From those inner tides where feelings crest and fall to the invisible pools of memory, of love, of longing, we arrive at a deeper understanding that in every motion, seen or unseen, there is harmony, a rhythm of attachment, like the moon and the sea, like the heart and its feelings. Everything moves along its own path, yet remains bound by an invisible thread. And as the story draws to a close, we realize love, in its purest form, is orbit. The moon and the sea never touch, and yet they belong to each other for all time. At first it sounds like a pretty metaphor. Listen more deeply, and it becomes a way to live. In the universe, not every bond requires nearness. Not every love must be possessed. Some connections endure not because they are held tightly, but because they are understood. Hundreds of thousands of miles lie between moon and sea, and that very distance is what makes their beauty. If one day they could touch, the tides would break, the orbits would tangle, and life on Earth might never be the same. Some loves can exist only with distance, where each keeps the other free, yet both remain in a rhythm that never stops. The moon never changes her orbit, just as the sea never stops rising. Both know their place in the cosmic score, and so they endure in harmony within their separation. This is not only nature's story, but a message to us. True love is not possession, but influence, gentle yet deep, quiet yet everlasting. A single glance, a single word, a simple presence can change the rhythm of a heart, the way the moon lifts waves without ever touching the sea. In life, we often mistake love for nearness, for keeping, for becoming one and the same. But that kind of love lasts only for a moment. When we try to hold too tightly, orbits are thrown off and harmony is lost. True love is like the motion of the stars. Each travels its own path, yet their light meets and mingles in a shared sky. They do not need to collide to prove they exist. They simply shine in their own ways, and in that resonance, the whole sky grows radiant. Influence, not possession, is the highest form of love. To love someone most beautifully is not to have them, but to help them live better, happier, freer, like the moon, who with borrowed sunlight can make the entire ocean tremble and make the night less lonely. The sea never demands the moon come closer. The moon never asks the sea to rise higher. They only trust that each night the light will descend, and each day the waves will climb. That trust is a vow without words, stronger than any promise. If one day we can love someone the way the moon loves the sea, perhaps we will know what peace is. Not needing to be near, only to be present. Not needing to speak, only to feel. Not needing to hold, only to create an influence, silent yet far-reaching. A person may be far away and still change how we see the world. A memory may have passed and still make us smile each time it returns. That is the orbit of love, not demanding collision, only parallel existence. Enough to move each other, enough to make each of us different, better, deeper, truer. When science looks at moon and sea, it sees only numbers, cycles, forces. When we look with the heart, we see something else. Accord the breath of two souls, accustomed to distance, yet never ceasing to affect one another. The moon lifts the sea, and the sea returns a brighter reflection of the moon. Each helps the other become the best version of itself. They may never touch, and yet they make each other timeless, and that is what any love strives for. In our lives, we have our own moons and seas relationships that change us even across distance. Some people appear only for a moment, yet leave an influence that lasts forever. Some simply pass through and still cause us to live differently, think differently, love differently. They are emotional satellites, circling our lives, shaping how we understand the world. And so, even when they go, they remain in memory, in habit, in the way we love others afterward. Love is not always two hands held to the end of days. Sometimes it is simply existing in the same universe, knowing that somewhere out there the other is still moving in their path, still casting their light across our life. Perhaps that is why people say love is not gazing at each other, but looking outward in the same direction. When two orbits harmonize, distance becomes meaningless. If we see life as a solar system, each person a planet, then love is the gravity that keeps things from flying apart. But as in astronomy, if the pull is too strong, the system collapses. If too weak, everything drifts away. Only when it is balanced, gentle, steady, enduring, can the planets circle together in the beauty of order. Love needs the same. Not possession, not binding, but influence light, yet lasting. When moonlight falls upon the sea, it does not choose only the highest crest or the fairest shore. It covers wild waves and quiet sands alike, as if to say, I am here not to control, but to be present. The sea does not rise to seize the moon, but to reflect her, a tribute, an offering. So it is with love. When our love is true, we do not try to reshape the other to mirror ourselves. We simply want to reflect something better together. What makes love endure is not time, but influence. Some loves are brief, yet their afterglow lasts a lifetime. Some bonds exist only in scattered moments, yet leave us forever changed. That is when love has moved beyond feeling to become part of our inner orbit. We no longer need the person to be present, because their influence has become a light within us. The moon and the sea teach that love is not for owning, but for coexisting in harmony. They make no promises, set no conditions, demand nothing. They simply remain, keeping their rhythm. Thus their love does not fade, because nothing can pull it off course. Perhaps this is the most perfect love the universe has made. Wordless, untouching, endless. Look closely and you'll see. An orbit is not just a path. It is a way to preserve life. If the moon left Earth's orbit, the oceans would lose their rhythm, the climate would change, and the world would fall into disorder. If love in life is such an orbit, then every relationship, however small, helps keep our emotional world in balance. When we love someone, we are really finding a point to circle a center that tells us where we belong, even if only in the heart. Perhaps true love is not a journey of drawing closer, but a movement in parallel. Two people may remain in different worlds, and still, if they turn toward one another and move in the same rhythm, they are bound. Like the moon and the sea, they need not meet or touch. Yet they dwell within each other, one shining, one reflecting, each giving the other a reason to be. When we understand this, we stop fearing distance, stop hurting because we cannot hold. We learn that sometimes loving from afar is not losing, but another way of being together. Some people will always be the moon in our lives, not near, never within reach, yet always there, soothing and guiding, making us feel safe. And we, even as a small sea, will rise whenever we remember them, a natural reflex of love. When love becomes an orbit, it is no longer a passing mood, but part of the cosmos within us. It needs no oaths to prove itself, only steady being, a gentle influence that never ends. The moon still shines, the sea still rises. No beginning needed, no ending required. That is enough. And who knows, on some night when moonlight falls upon the water, we, the ones listening to this story, may smile and realize we, too, are moving in such an orbit, a love that needs no touch, no words, yet still makes our hearts rise like waves beneath the moon. Quiet, tender, and forever. You can close your eyes now and let your thoughts dissolve like mist. If your mind still longs to wander, let it continue on to the next video, where we'll go deeper into the mysteries of the heart. And if your body is tired, let this sound cradle you into sleep. No effort needed, only breathe. And remember, everything you are searching for is already resting quietly within you.